Let's jump right in. Today, we're tearing down a major assumption in corporate culture. We're looking at exactly what happens when the distrust of outsiders stops being a universal signal. We usually split business into two totally separate buckets, right? You've got the hard stuff, the math, spreadsheets, P&L, and then you have the soft stuff, the vibes, the human element, company culture. But what if that split is completely made up? What if the way we read human signals, specifically trust and distrust, is actually a hard, measurable science? Take a look at how most organizations operate. Management almost always views distrust as just a bug in the system. It's treated like this toxic little flaw that has to be coached away or fixed with, trust-building exercises. If an employee puts up boundaries, the standard playbook says, we need to fix this malfunction immediately. But treating distrust as a universal flaw, that might actually be the single biggest mistake a leader can make. And the data totally backs this up. A massive world values survey poll, we're talking 78 countries, 20 languages, over 1,200 respondents, totally shatters the myth that distrust is just a bug. They found a mathematically significant positive correlation, specifically plus 0.1923, between distrusting people of another nationality and a very specific psychological profile. This proves, with hard math, that distrust isn't just random noise. It's not just a few cynical people being difficult. It's a highly predictable structural response tied to a specific way of viewing the world. So what is that specific worldview? It's what Spiral Dynamics calls the red vMEME. Basically, think of it as a survival-driven mindset. And here's the kicker. For this red profile, distrust isn't a flaw at all. It's actually a highly tuned threat radar. This mindset pops up in competitive, resource-scarce environments where, honestly, naive trust literally invites exploitation. If you just blindly trust everyone, you're going to get burned. So to them, the phrase, most people can be trusted, sounds like a dangerous trap. In this system, trust is absolutely never the default. It has to be earned through demonstrated strength, direct action, and predictable reciprocity. They don't care about your words. They are looking purely at behavior. And you can see how this creates a massive headache for leadership. A single behavioral signal, like, say, caution around new people, means completely different things depending on the underlying value system. Trust just isn't universal. It's contextual. You might look at your team and think, great, we have one cohesive culture. But actually, scratch that. You're dealing with multiple, overlapping psychological operating systems. When you drop a new policy into the mix, that exact same signal is processed in entirely opposite ways. Let's look at the fallout when management tries to quote-unquote fix things by forcing openness. If you just blindly strip away that defensive anchor, the organization fractures. The different systems react in completely uncoordinated ways. The blue mindset, which loves order and rules, completely panics without boundaries and tightens vetting procedures to restore safety. Then you have the orange achiever mindset, focused purely on performance. They just archive the whole concern as irrelevant noise. And meanwhile, the green community-driven mindset sees an opportunity and pushes for hyper-inclusive onboarding to force connection. It's chaos. This misstep, it triggers a very dangerous butterfly effect. It starts with signal misalignment. Management thought they were just making the workplace friendlier by telling everyone to hold hands and trust each other. But by removing the red mindset's threat radar without providing real security, they misread crucial caution as just someone being difficult. That leads straight into hiring errors, where defensive behaviors are punished or worse, promoted for the wrong reasons. Suddenly, teams isolate into cultural silos. And ultimately, it cascades into a total fragmentation of the system. The company literally splinters because the shared understanding of risk just collapsed. So how do we navigate this mess? We have to drop the gut instinct management and move to a hard science known as the algebra of conscience. We really need to stop relying on generic HR surveys that ask, hey, are you happy today? Instead, by integrating thousands of global correlations, we can build a mathematical framework where decisions actually account for real human drivers: fear, trust, empathy, stress. We're essentially taking the messy, chaotic reality of human feelings and translating it into a solvable, predictive equation. Look at this model. It proves that the quote-unquote soul of a company can actually be quantified as an objective state vector. You can literally plot the weights of different value systems, say purple at 0.3, red at 0.2, blue at 0.5, alongside psychological sensors like fear or trust. This gives you an exact real-time psychological snapshot of a workforce. When you start factoring in management actions, like mandated remote work or budget cuts, this framework beautifully bridges the gap between the hard math of business and the soft reality of human emotion. And here is where it gets really powerful.
By applying this specific transition function, an organization can mathematically predict how a policy shift will alter their culture months before it even happens. It's basically saying your future state equals your current state plus whatever management action you take, filtered through your specific context. You can literally A/B test your leadership. Before you hit send on that company-wide memo, you run it through the matrix. Does fear spike 10%? Does tribal bonding drop? It acts like a GPS for your corporate culture, recalculating your route to keep things stable based on how your team is actually wired.
If you ignore this math, you get hit hard by that butterfly effect. Let's say you make a standard spreadsheet decision to reduce staff and save some cash. On paper, looks like a clean win, but the psychology math shows a totally different chain reaction. The layoff causes an immediate spike in systemic fear. And that fear doesn't just make people sad, it makes resources feel incredibly scarce. The tribe turns on itself. Latent biases flare up. Suddenly, you're seeing a rise in ageism as employees view each other as survival threats. The end result? A complete collapse in leadership legitimacy. You might have saved $1 million in payroll, sure, but you completely destroyed your authority to lead. The spreadsheet totally missed it, but the algebra of conscience saw it coming a mile away. And this right here is the major paradigm shift. Treating complex human defense mechanisms as simple errors is exactly what breaks the system. The failure isn't in tracking the correlation. It's in expecting defensive logic to just vanish when the signal is removed. When a red dominant team shows distrust, they are not broken. They are perfectly calibrating to their environment. If you force them to act like a collaborative green team without actually changing the safety of their environment, you haven't fixed your culture. You've just blinded it. So, I want to leave you with a question that should completely change how you view the hidden wiring of trust. What breaks when threat signals stop being universal? If a mathematical model can process the conscience of thousands of employees and prove that trust is a structural necessity, not just a perk, then empathy is no longer just a soft skill. It's computable data. Take a hard look at the threat signals in your own organization. Are you just trying to silence them, or are you finally ready to decode what they're actually trying to tell you?